Hello, my name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach and the host of Take Your Life Back Today show. As an addiction recovery coach, I want to share something with you, and let me be crystal clear to leave an everlasting impact upon you. Just imagine being buried alive. You're in a coffin, but you know you're not dead. You don't know how to get out of the coffin. You tried lifting the lid, but the enormous weight upon the lid prevents you from doing it. You also then try banging on the lid. To unsettle the dirt, maybe somebody will start digging their way down towards you. This is what it's like to find yourself at the lowest point of alcohol and drug addiction. You know you need help, you know you can't do it on your own, but you don't know where to get help. In reality, there are people standing by your grave. You just think, today, you're going to die. This is what it's like at the lowest point of alcohol and drug addiction. Usually, though, but you don't think about death when you're habitually abusing both alcohol and drugs. In order to feed an addiction, you have to be great at repressing the fear of death. I often ask you, my audience, did it ever cross your mind while you were abusing drugs and alcohol that maybe, just maybe, you might overdose and take something away that was given to you by the Lord Jesus called life? And if that's not selfish enough, that you don't care enough to take your own life, but to take your life away from the people who love and count on you most, your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your children, your grandchildren. With this, let me leave one last thought. Don't be like the person on these index cards that waited until it was too late. Pick up the phone and call me at 844-405-HELP, 844-405-HELP, and I promise you I will help you take your life back. You can also call Larry Geis at 516-458-2741. Larry Geis is an addiction recovery coach, a life coach. He will help you from addiction to recovery, from depression to happier times, from low self-esteem to higher self-esteem. Larry Geis can be found at www.odysseyconsultant.org, and you can call him at 516-458-2741. Don't forget to take your slippers off at night and put them under your bed, not by the edge of the bed, but under your bed. In the morning, drop down to your knees, retrieve them, look under the bed, there they are, get them out. While you're on your knees, thank God for another beautiful day, like what's behind me, beautiful lake, river, nice waterfall. Thank God for allowing you to live on earth another day, because for someone that privilege wasn't granted this morning. Thank God for your clothing, your food, your husband and your wife. Ask God for guidance and direction. Ask God for forgiveness. Utilize knee-mail, K-N-E-E mail, each and every day while you're on your knees to make a difference in your life. You should have a time in the day, each and every day. Why not utilize that time in the morning while you're getting your slippers from under the bed? Then, when you're done praying to God, put on your slippers and walk with God 24/7. Email, K-N-E-E mail, each and every day, your personal connection with God. Speaking of God, what does the Bible say about everything happening for a reason? Does everything happen for a reason? There are several known factors that help us answer this question. The law of cause and effect, the law of grace, and the doctrine of the providence of God. These factors demonstrate that everything does happen for a reason, not just by happenstance or by random chance. First, there is the natural law of cause and effect, also known as the law of sowing and reaping. Paul said, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. The one who sows to please his sinful nature from the nature will reap destruction. The one who sows to please the Spirit from the Spirit will reap eternal life." Galatians 6:7-8. This means that in every action we take or word we utter, whether good or evil, there are certain things that result that will follow. Colossians 3:23-25. All that we do is geared toward one or two things, an investment in the flesh or an investment in the Spirit. We shall reap whatever we have sown, and we shall reap in proportion to how we have sown. Paul cautioned us, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. 2 Corinthians 9:6. The believer who walks in the Spirit and sows in the Spirit is going to reap in a spiritual harvest. If his sowing has been generous, the harvest will be bountiful. If not in this life, certainly in a life to come. And conversely, those who sow to the flesh are going to reap a life without the full blessings of God, both in the life and in the life to come. Jeremiah 18, 10, and 2 Peter 2:10 through 12. Jesus makes it clear that God causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and then sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Matthew 5:45. In other words, God reveals his undiscriminating love, Romans 2:11, to everyone in allowing the sun to rise and rain to fall on both the evil and the good, the righteous and the unrighteous. Though this passage refers to physical blessings on earth, not spiritual, those blessings are given without respect to merit. If they were merit-based, no one would receive them. This is called the law of common grace, meaning that God is indiscriminate in his benevolence. His divine love and providence in some ways benefit everyone, even those who rebel against him or deny his existence. The psalmist tells us, "Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominance endures through all generations. The Lord is faithful to all his promises and loving toward all he has made. The Lord upholds all those who fall and lifts up all those who bow down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them the food at proper time. You open your hand and satisfy the desires of everything living." Psalms 145:13 through 16. This is why we sometimes see good things happen to bad people and bad things to good people. However, the Lord is near to all who call on him, in truth. He fulfills the desires of all of those who fear him. He hears their cry and saves them. The Lord watches over all who love him, but all wicked he will destroy. Psalms 145:18 through 20. While God is discriminate in the common grace he bestows upon all, we must realize that God will curse those who disobey his commands. Deuteronomy 11:26 through 28. We reap God's reward for obedience or his curses for disobedience, both now and thereafter. Then we have what is called the providence of God. The doctrine of providence holds that God quietly works through the law of cause and effect in the natural world to manage events. The miracles of God differ from his providence in that God's miracles exceed the boundaries of known natural laws. Instant heals, raising of the dead. Such miracles ceased at the end of the apostolic era and no longer evident today. Providence, on the other hand, is a term theologians use to express their conviction that God works in his purpose through the natural process of the physical and social universe. Every fact can be traced back to a natural cause. Within this law of cause and effect, there is no hint of miracles. The best that a man can do is to explain the reason why things happen to course of natural events is to a point of coincidence. However, believers proclaim that God not only intervened in, but arranged these coincidences. The unbeliever derides such ideas because he believes each event can be traced back to a natural causes that fully explain what happened without reference to God. Yet followers of the Christ who are wholly assured on this profound truth, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. The book of Esther vividly illustrates the truth of divine providence by identifying coincidence, which has led to deliverance of the Jewish people from a plot to exterminate them. Although this is a book about providence, God is not mentioned, yet the string of coincidence leading so naturally to the deliverance is so striking that God's work in the story's outcome is very obvious. We also learn from the book of Esther that God is always at work in the lives of his people. The coincidences that define our lives are not simply products of cause and effect or random chance. The coincidences that mark our lives are ordained by God and are intended for our good. It was only when looking back that Esther and Mordecai could clearly see the hand of God in what happened to them. We often fail to sense of God's hidden guidance or protection as events in our lives unfold, but when we look back, we're able to see his hands more clearly even in those times when such events or circumstances appear as tragedies in our lives. In looking back and studying those coincidences that changed the course of our lives, we discover that God has been right there all along. As believers, it behooves us to examine those incidents and realize that God was at work in each one, even those who brought us suffering, including what we thought were unanswered prayers. The doctrine of providence tells us that God is at work in the life of all his people. Though his activity may be hidden, it is very real. In retrospect, we variably discover that God is working for us right this very moment, right where we are. But more importantly, we uncover the glorious confirmation of his unending love, Romans 8:38 through 39. This is how the Bible explains everything happens for a reason. And I tell you, I truly believe everything does happen for a reason. Not only does the Bible say everything happens for a reason, but if you look at everything that does happen in your life, there is usually reason behind it. Now, if I wanted to think about this, my mother being killed on May 31st at 3:05, being hit by a truck, what could possibly be the reason? What could possibly be the reason of that? I don't know the answer, but I'm sure eventually the answer will be here, because I truly believe everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that I became an alcoholic to actually go out and help people. That is the reason I became an alcoholic, is to recover and to live in sobriety to help people like you. I truly believe that sooner or later I'll know the reason why my mother was killed. One reason I can think of is that to be closer to the Lord. Another reason is to bring people, family members, closer together. There could be so many reasons, but there is one particular reason I might never know in this lifetime, but one day I will know. I hope that you enjoyed this particular segment, and I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I hope you believe the same. May God bless you. May God keep you sober. Have a great day.